trying to understand the minds of regressive leftists and social justice warriors.
More about our regressive left friend, the sleight of mind defense mechanism.
This is one in a series of videos in which we attempt to fathom the depths, the inscrutable darkness, as it were, the very abyss itself that is the minds of social justice warriors, often abbreviated SJWs, and other regressive leftists. Note, the visual element of this video will not necessarily pertain to what is being said. All or most of what is shown on the screen will just be videos that I've taken of nature or whatever, so you can just listen to it if you want. The term regressive left was coined by the liberal Muslim Maji Nawaz and first appeared in print in his book Radical in 2012. Over the years, in various media appearances, he has defined the term in various ways, but a fair summary will be to say the following. The regressive left is the section of the left that is illiberal, that is, left-wingers who do not adhere to liberal principles, the principles of liberty and equality. These are still recognized as being liberal principles in the UK, but in the USA, these principles are more likely to be characterized as classical liberal and/or libertarian. The regressive left tends to be hypocritical about applying these principles, that is, liberty and equality, and they tend to be collectivists believing in group rights rather than equal rights. In other words, they believe that some people should have more rights than others if they belong to certain groups. They tend to be authoritarian, whether they use the government or just mobs to impose their will upon other people. For example, they want the government to pass hate speech laws or stricter gun control on the one hand, and on the other hand, they tend to use mob violence to, well, violate other people's civil rights. They tend to adhere to political correctness. They tend to be very intolerant of those who do not conform to their own views, even going so far as to consider actual liberals to be right-wingers or using racist slurs against people who are not white who don't adhere to their very narrow view. In short, again, the regressive left is the section of the left that is not for equal individual liberty for every person regardless of skin color, sex, etc. They are the illiberal left. For a very in-depth look at the definition and use of the term regressive left in mass media, see the link below to my video about this. Social justice warriors are regressive leftists who actively try to impose their regressive leftism onto others, sometimes through civil disobedience, sometimes through the government or institutions like universities or companies like Starbucks or producers of video games, films, comic books, etc. But not all activists are social justice warriors. You see, I've done my own activist work, many hours of activist work myself in my earlier 20s, but out of principles that some would now call classical liberal or what others call left-wing libertarian, rather than out of regressive left motives, but I digress. All social justice warriors are regressive leftists because they are activists motivated by regressive leftism, but not all regressive leftists are social justice warriors because not all regressive leftists are activists.
This is the third installment of the series trying to understand the minds of regressive leftists and social justice warriors, and the second of what I suppose we can call a sub-series called Open Letter to a Regressive Left Friend, in which we discuss some of our dealings with regressive left friends, two in particular, one very much in particular, in attempt to understand the minds of regressive leftists and social justice warriors in general, which is, of course, the aim of this series. Now, I hope you watched the first installment of this sub-series titled Open Letter to a Regressive Left Friend, but it's not really necessary. Now, this installment was recorded a few months ago. I've just been too busy to deal with it, and in this installment we will discuss, among other related things, an unwitting trick that some people engage in, a certain kind of defense mechanism. Again, using our friend as a case study. Here we go. Okay, folks, I woke up today and I was very disheartened to see the following post, not because of what it says, but because it's sort of bait. Okay, what it says on its own is not so bad. It's just when you read the bottom, I'll show you. When you read the bottom, if you know about this whole greater agenda, it's kind of alarming. Okay, so you know the two people, especially the one female person that Tabitha and I have spoken about a couple times here and there in our videos, because they serve as perfect examples for us to try to wrap our heads around the minds of people who, well, if they were active, I would call them SJWs. The thing is, thankfully, they're not active at all. They just sort of consume, you know, the sort of propaganda you'll get from all these pop news sources like BuzzFeed and all that kind of stuff. And so that's why Tabby and I use these people as an example. It's people that we know in real life, that we've lived with, that we were close to, that we understand how their minds work beyond just what they say You know, we have some sort of understanding of their own, you know, look, not everybody's honest about what they think and feel and their motivation behind it. Sometimes you ask somebody, why do you think that? And they just don't give you an honest answer. So you have to kind of know a person deep enough, you know, like say a family member, you kind of have to know them before you can realize, well, the reason why they claim that they think X, Y, and Z is because really what's going on is whether it, you know, usually it's Jungian, usually it's a projection of something, and usually it's tied to a complex. Anyway, my motivation for even covering all this regressive left stuff is that of a social psychologist. I want to understand why these people say the things they say and think the things they think. And sometimes those two are not the same thing. Sometimes they think one thing and they say another thing, because humans are like that. Anyway, friend posted this. It's a meme. You can see it says, trolls will insist you owe them a debate, which is funny because I don't know a single person who's ever expressed that. And then, don't fall for it. You don't owe them shit, which is true. Delete their damn comments. Well, okay. See, now to me, I read that and I'm like, well, that's pretty ignorant, because I know from personal experience that these days, the word troll is misused more often than not. You know, the word troll is supposed to mean someone who, they have no goal other than to just bother you, to fuck with you, to upset you, or say to ruin your day or whatever. They're not interested in truth or in principle or in improving society or anything like that. That's not what a troll is. But these days, the word troll is used for people like myself, people who speak truth that other people want, you know, to silence, basically. So right off the bat, my first thought is, okay, well, you know, they use the word troll, but what they're really saying here is be willfully ignorant. Now, of course, nobody owes anybody a debate. Nobody even, you know, if you want to delete somebody's comments from your own post, that's your own prerogative. Whatever. So, on the surface, it's not so bad. It's just, it's a little ignorant. But here's where it gets weird. It's from Basic Bitches of the Revolution, and then you can see the original poster, the Basic Bitches of the Revolution they have written. Why we don't debate, here it comes, folks. Why we don't debate Jordan Peterson, red flags going off for all of us who know what that's about, or platform his followers, okay? So, okay, if you know who Jordan Peterson is and you know about this platforming thing, you get what this is. This is just a sneaky way of sticking a foot in the door that leads to totalitarianism, basically.
Eventually.
Alright, so here's my prediction. This is what's going to happen. When she finally does comment, she'll say something that completely misses the point, and she won't be doing it on purpose. It's just the way her mind works. She has this amazing ability. They call this the psychic sensor in Jungian psychology. It's that part of your brain that basically plays a sleight of mind trick. That's my own phrase, sleight of mind. It's just like sleight of hand, okay? You know how a performer will use sleight of hand to hide certain things from the audience, but the thing is, the magician, the stage magician in this metaphor, is your own psychic sensor. So in other words, you are the audience that gets fooled by the sleight of hand by your own psychic sensor. In other words, there's a part of your brain that plays sleight of mind and does a little trick. And you get fooled by it. You fool your fucking self. You fool yourself, and just like in Orwell, okay, just like in 1984, the act of crime stop. The act of crime stop starts with an individual playing these tricks on themselves, okay? You play the trick on yourself, and then you forget that you play the trick on yourself. How do you forget? Conditioning. Try to forget something right now, folks. Try to forget the word orange, okay? Don't think of an orange. Right now, don't think of an orange or the word orange. You can't do it, right? But if you condition yourself, okay, with certain stimuli, you can actually consciously forget things, and it's what we repress, okay? And what we repress is what we project outwards onto other people, okay? And that is why I say, for example, this person, this friend of ours, will completely, well, they'll make a comment that will demonstrate conclusively that they are not addressing the point. And then that person, in a few comments after that, will say that I'm intentionally missing the point, my own point that I'm making, that they're not addressing. I'm intentionally missing the point. That's what will happen. That's projection. And then I also predict the following. After a few more comments, when things become even more clear, the person will just drop it. That's what they do.
And now, womansplaining with Tabitha.
When you call them out using logic, the response is Nazi, racist, white supremacists because the little magician in their head refuses to have the trick found out.
Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes it's that. It depends on the person. It depends on the context.
Sometimes they're just vile assholes that purely want to spread hate and think that this is a great way to do it. It's just somebody with a chip on their shoulder who's found a group that allows them to hit people.
Right. Well, what we're witnessing here is well-intended people. You don't assign an evil in a person without evidence for it. Okay? In other words, you in polite conversation, you assume the other person means the best until you have evidence otherwise. Okay? So that's why I'm saying we're seeing in action 3 well-intended people being corrupted and manipulated by a very ill-intended source. These, basic pictures of the revolution, okay? They give it away by mentioning Jordan Peterson. They showed their cards. So, anyway, some people, yes, the response is, okay, they're finding out the trick, so I'm going to yell Nazi, whatever. Sometimes the response is just like that scene in Spinal Tap where the person's going, well, why not just make these all louder instead of spending the money to convert your amplifier so that the dials go to 11? Why not just take the more simpler and cheaper approach of just making the amp 1 step louder? Okay? And the character kind of doesn't get it, or maybe he does. Either way, he changes the subject by, well, these go to 11.
To what we use on stage, but it's very, very special because if you can see, the numbers all go to 11. Look, right across the board. 11, 11,
and most of
11,
the
and then
amps go up to 10.
Exactly.
Does that mean it's louder? Is it any louder?
Well, it's 1 louder, isn't it? It's not 10. You see, most blokes, be playing at 10. You're on 10 here, all the way up, all the way up, all the way up. You're on 10 on your guitar. Where can you go from there? Where?
I don't know.
Nowhere, exactly. What we do is if we need that extra push over the cliff, you know what we do?
Put it up to 11.
11, exactly. 1 louder.
Why don't you just make 10 louder and make 10 be the top number and make that a little louder?
These go to 11.
Right? And that's the equivalent of a lot of these conversations end up being just like that. Like you make a point and then they say something that doesn't actually make sense in the context. But these go to 11.
Yeah, I wish people who spread terrorist propaganda around because they think it's good intention stuff and I believe in the message even though I'm not going to look at the bottom line there, which is the original post and who it fucking came from, who are terrorists, by the way. A bunch of fucking gay-hating, trans-hating, mostly white assholes who, by the way, have also been caught calling people the N-word.
Yeah.
You're goddamn right. You're fucking nigga to the white man. You are the nigga. You are the nigga. You are one.
Yeah, but you want to join that resistance, right? To my 2 friends, to our 2 friends, you 2, who I have more respect for than that, are passing around propaganda written by people who want to murder gay people.
Yep.
Let that sink in. I love you 2, but let that fucking sink into your goddamn skull and you look at yourself in the mirror and you tell yourself you may be responsible for a fucking gay person getting lynched because they wore the wrong hat. That's what I have to say about that, and it goes to the rest of you, too.
Yeah. It reminds me of that video we did about the safety pin. Remember when they were trying to make it so that, hey, if you don't wear the safety pin, you must be one of those Nazis and you should be punched, and then somebody pointed out the fact that in Nazi Germany, they made people fucking wear safety pins because they were Jewish? Hi, we're here at the Trump rally, and we're seeing who has their safety pin and who doesn't. It's important to show solidarity with, the cause. And, well, here comes somebody now. Hi there. You coming from the Trump protest?
No.
The inauguration? I noticed that you're not wearing any safety pins there.
No, I'm not.
You should probably be wearing a safety pin to show solidarity. We wouldn't want any bad things to happen.
Who are you, the fucking Gestapo? Varies your papers?
I don't know. I mean...
got your fucking safety pin now, bitch. Look at this here. Where the hell's your safety pin? The safety pin. Look here. There's a fucking safety pin for you. It's just you wear it. They retracted real fucking fast from that one, didn't they? Every time their actions get shown for what they really are, they retract quickly and turn back into their hole, and then come out with something fucking new.
Yeah, it's just like when our friend, whenever I make a good point to our friend, she just goes silent for a few days and then tries some other angle.
Silence is nothing. Right now, you're trying to find a way to lie to yourself.
Yep.
Admit the facts. Fucking think and answer. Don't sit there for a week and drink as much as you can to try and fucking forget. I'm pissed. Like, you're gonna fucking spread around terrorist propaganda. You idiots pull your heads out of your asses. You are the Nazis, and you don't get it. And to our friends, you two are the Germans that sat in their houses 100 feet away from a fucking internment camp where Jews were being starved. Okay? Because that's what some of those Germans were doing. They were in the vicinity to be able to see the smokestacks burning the bodies, to smell the rot of the corpse. But you know what they did? They did a mental sleight of hand, and they did not acknowledge what was really in front of them. That's what our two friends are like to me at this fucking moment. It's like, you are literally outside of the fucking detention center with a sign saying, love over hate, and fuck the Jews. That's what you're doing. That is exactly what you're fucking doing. You're no better than the actual Germans that were forced to walk through the death camps and see the atrocities that they purposely blinded themselves to because they wanted to be right. You assholes wanted to be right so bad that you purposely looked the other way when your own family members were rounded up because they were mentally incapable of being like everybody else.
Yeah.
And they were tormented. German citizens, not Jews, by the way, German citizens.
Yeah, if you thought you were gay, you get killed. If you thought you were trans, you get killed.
If you thought you were Bolshevik, or in any way made him jealous,
right.
What do we see from all these SJWs that hate fucking the track girls, supermodels, or anybody with a better body than them? Same thing Hitler would do. Oh, I don't like how that person looks, they must go!
Now, imagine if well before Allied forces literally forced German citizens to walk through the camps to face what their government did. Imagine if well before that, before they were put in the ovens, imagine if they were allowed to and they voluntarily went to the camps and looked for themselves and saw that there were people there who were Jewish, were accused of being Jewish, or accused of being communist, accused of being gay, etc., starving to death. Imagine if they saw that by the millions, if they actually voluntarily saw that. That makes me think, if only our two friends here would voluntarily look at the evidence that I keep putting out there over and over and over again, evidence that thousands of people have seen, over almost 2 million views now, okay? It's what I put out there is well documented. I prove everything I say, unlike these other people, okay? I prove it fucking all. If only you would just look at the evidence before it's fucking too late. Instead of playing the game like, okay, the Young Turks recently, they praised the fact that Alex Jones was censored, okay? This has nothing to do with defending what Alex Jones says. It's defending the principle of free speech. So when the Young Turks praises that, that's even worse than a famous poem when they say, first they came for the gypsies and I didn't speak out because I wasn't a gypsy. And then they came for the gay people and I didn't speak out because I wasn't gay. It's worse than that. It's first they came for the gypsies and I applauded it.
Yep. Because that's what you two are doing. You're sitting there like two happy little brainless seals going, Antifa! Racist! Yeah, us! That's what you're fucking doing. You're acting like a brainless animal, especially when you are fucking confronted with actual, validated, fucking evidence to the contrary of what you goddamn believe.
The person who says, why do you think that? Let me explain what I think and you tell me what you think. that's the person who probably will end up being right. And if they're wrong, they'll correct themselves and make themselves right. The person who says, shut up or I'll hit you, or don't let that person speak, they fucking know they're wrong.
That's why they're willing to take it to a position of drawing blood. That's the whole point. If you're right, you don't need to make somebody else bleed to prove how right you are.
Yep.
That is the absolute opposite of being right. If you are right, you can stand firmly behind your convictions and know that nothing can shake what you know to be true. But if you know you're full of fucking shit, then you become irate. Or, as in our friend, ignore the situation, then come back with an underhanded remark or comment or post to try and re-aggravate the situation because now you think you have a new angle.
Right.
Which the angle gets fucking trumped, and I use that word on purpose. And you go silent again. That does nothing. All it does is prove to me that you think you're right, but you are so far from it, it's laughable.
Well, they think they're right on one level because they play sleight of mind. On a deeper level, you have to fucking know you're wrong when you keep avoiding an honest...
That's what I mean. At this point, it's not technically just denying it to yourself.
Yeah.
This is actively trying to win.
Right.
Which means that you actually think you're right, but yet you don't have the facts behind you to back it up. So you have to keep playing a game to try and wear the other person out or buy time long enough, much like the Democrats like to do, buy time long enough for you to either drum up something that's bullshit or find some scrap of a fact that you might be able to inflate into a topic. But none of it stands ground, which is why it always results with you assholes punching somebody. Because you can't be right if you are wrong. And if you are wrong, you will fight to act right. It's really stupid, but we see it all the fucking time, and Antifa excels at this.
Oh, yeah.
They are wrong on so many levels. Well, I've heard patriots come to blows. If somebody hits you with a stick in the fucking head, you have every right under the laws of humanity to hit them the fuck back. Oh, yeah. That doesn't make you wrong. That makes you defensive. That's different.
Yep.
You have the right to defend yourself. Now, if I'm arguing with an Antifa and the Antifa is acting like they know what they're saying, I'm getting angry and I go, fuck you, I'm gonna kick your ass. That makes me wrong. And that means that I don't know what I'm talking about, so I acted out of anger instead of logic.
Yep. So I had to cut the recording short because the train was rolling by and just can't block out that sound. But as the train was rolling by and I turned off the microphone, Tabitha made the following point, and I want to end on this if I can. The person 1 and person 2 that we're talking about, that we've talked about in other videos, they are, as how you say it, they are self-destructive. I mean, we all are, but more so
By
than...
them, noticeably self-destructive.
Right, and they do have a strong psychic sensor about certain things. When you lead them right to the door and the information and evidence is right there, they have the ability to just close it and then forget that the door was ever there. And that makes me think, you know, we do have some means by which we can understand these two. And unfortunately, we don't really have the same access to the minds and motivations of a lot of other, you know, pawns of this whole oppressive movement. These useless or useful fools, right? So maybe a lot of these people who are literally using mob violence to silence speech because other people told them to do so, okay? Maybe, like our friends, they're just self-destructive. They actually do want to harm. They don't want to improve society. They're not fighting against hate. They
want to watch it burn.
They want to destroy. They don't want it. They're not acting out of love. They're acting out of self-hate. And if you hate yourself, it's easy to hate other people. That's why I always advise people. I do advise against hate. Okay? I'm not saying I'm immune to it, but I do advise against hate. And some of you people are like, oh, well, it's okay to hate certain people and they're bad. Whatever. I mean, if you want to hate them, But I'm just saying it's not healthy for yourself.
Yeah, to hate is to lose part of your soul. And with every hate, lose more.
And hate allows you to dehumanize.
Yep, because you hate and you've lost part of your soul. When you lose part of your soul, you no longer see another human as a human, but more as an object. That's the point of hating.
Right.
You objectify the person to that level.
So knowing this about our friends, maybe we can say that perhaps a good number of these people out there who, you know, want to use this mob violence, who literally call for laws against free speech and etc., who say it's okay to put people in jail for making tasteless jokes, perhaps they just want to hate. And they're self-destructive. What do you folks think? Leave us a comment below. Love, life, light, liberty, and leaping laughter. Thanks for watching.